Right. Welcome everybody. So tonight we're joined with James McCarthy. James is a full-time games development administrator at Cork GA, as well as current manager with Castlehaven Senior Footballers, having coached them to county final success in 2002 and 2013. All right, James? Are we right?
So you're each out.
Oh, right.
12 and 3.
12 and 3, 2012 and 2003. So, and also James has been a selector and a coach with the Cork Minor Footballers the last few years, culminating, I suppose, in their success last year in the All-Ireland final. So, thanks, James. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
So what we're going to discuss tonight, we're just going to focus on the warm-up and I suppose the time around the warm-up and how we can utilise that best to get the most benefit out of the warm-up. So we'll be discussing a couple of things, and a lot of it interlinks with each other. So we might double up, but we'll just reinforce a few of the points, I suppose, from James. But what individual players can do themselves before the warm-up. So that'll be the 10 minutes or the 15 minutes before the coach actually starts. What should a player be doing himself individually or collectively as a subsection of the team? What should the content consist of? So throughout the year and throughout the session, what should they be actually focusing on? The introduction to game-related actions and how you can do that in the warm-up to make them more match aware, I suppose. Utilising the time in the warm-up to develop gameplay, games to play and variations of these, what you can do in the warm-up. Maximising the full area available and the time management, how to get full value out of the time that you actually have with the group. So I'll put it over to you, James. We'll start off the 10 minutes before the coach starts. That's like what are the 10-15 minutes? What should we be doing in this situation?
Well, I suppose if you pass any pitch in Ireland, sometimes you will see the coach put out the cones and maybe a goalie, and if he's unlucky, a cornerback kicking out the ball to 20 players outside the middle of the field. They're waiting to kick the ball over the bar. They might have one or two kicks. They're standing around, they're talking, they're on about the local soccer match or the match the night before, but they're not utilising their time. So I suppose this tonight we're talking about utilising our time properly. So if two lads are turning up for training a quarter of an hour beforehand and they're tugged off and everything, give them a ball between one ball each. So every player should have a ball, and they do a run over and back the field just to warm up the muscles, and off they go soloing on their weak leg. Use the time to work on their weak side. A bit on their strong. Just soloing, hopping, basic stuff, and then they could go into kicking. But again, think about a match. If a player kicks a ball to a fella, you very rarely kick it back to the same fella standing in the same spot. So have them moving around and turning, hopping and soloing, turning, twisting, passing the ball to each other, but they're moving, not sprinting, not at high intensity, but practicing all those moves. Usually I put the players into groups of 3, so you'd have the full back line together, the half back line together, if they were there in time, if they were coming. If not, nearest player to them, so a midfielder and a centre back and a wing back might be working together. And they're working out moves, sideline balls, practicing all that, goalies kicking out the ball to the midfielder. So you have 15 minutes there every night before training. If a fella's only there for 5 minutes, it's the same principle, but to use your time properly. I can't hear you, Colin.
Sorry, James. Would it be coach led at the start? And obviously, like as I said, you obviously at the start of the year when you're giving your plans for the year, when you're having your team, meeting with the team and you're outlining your plans, that you might highlight this, and it might be a bit player led or coach led at the start. But would the hope be that would it transition to player led as the season goes on?
100%. And again, I appreciate we're talking about different age groups, and if we talk a 14-year-old lad up to a senior boy here, but the principle would be the same. It'd be coach led early on, trying to explain, trying to give them a visual of what you're looking for. But one thing here, you're trying to get the players to think for themselves. Couple of things: communicating with the backs, that they're talking to each other. You must realise that if you're involved with a junior team or a senior team here, your cornerback could be 18 years of age, your fullback could be 38 years of age. they have no relationship off the pitch. So it's to utilise that time to build a bond on the field. If you're just running drills and they are not communicating, then your time is wasted in a way. Like, so they need to get to know each other, know how each other thinks, and get a bit of confidence into the younger lads as well.
And I suppose for injury prevention as well, you'd have probably, like with older teams now, once you go into adult level, you'd have a lot of players with niggly little injuries that might be persistent. Like that time is ideal for them as well to be proactive in that regard. Would that be something that you'd recommend, like lads doing their foam rolling, doing their own stretching, their own, I suppose, prehab?
100%, yeah. Again, that you're not going in kicking. You often see a player running onto the field with a bag of balls. Balls are in the middle of the field. He tried to kick a ball over the bar from 60 yards out. Coming back from a hamstring injury, they have to do their foam rolling. They have to do the proper warm up beforehand. Some more than others. And if they're injury prone, you'll be keeping away from it until they're properly warmed up.
And I suppose the thing with this, James, I know we're talking specifically football, but the same principles apply to hurling here. So any hurling oriented people, it's the exact same principles, I'm sure, yeah?
Yeah, I'm no expert on it, but the principle should be the same, that they're practicing their sideline balls, they're practicing their puck outs. I'm sure you see the Cork inter-county goalies, they're a half an hour before maybe the rest of the team practicing their puck outs just to get their time, utilising their time. Same with all, the principles will be the same. The goalposts are the same, the size of the pitch is the same, it's just utilising the size and everything.
Yeah, very good. So I suppose the content then, like obviously, like I'll just throw down a few points there. Releasing possession, which would entail kick passing, hand passing. Maintaining possession would be your bounce solo. Contesting possession would be your challenge, your tackling, block downs, high catching and stuff under pressure. Gaining possession, then you'd have your catching and your, I suppose, catching and pickups and stuff like that. Like a lot of that stuff could be brought into the warm up very quickly. You could tick off a lot of those boxes very quickly for I suppose you don't have to just do 5 skills a night, but I suppose the beauty of hurling and football is that if I kick the ball to you, you're going to be executing an additional skill your side of it. So then beyond that, then you got forward play, set plays, defensive play, transition play. Like, how can you get as much of that into the session or into the warm up as possible without, like, within the 20-minute barrier, let's say, without just doing it a token gesture?
Yeah, I would like, we have a lot of stuff up on the screen there, so I would hope that if we can visualize this, that releasing possession is kicking the ball, but it isn't kicking a ball and running out to a cone and standing still for 30 seconds and waiting for their turn to come again. So if you're releasing the ball with a kick, what do you do after that? Okay, so you'll be looking for 3 things. What do you do after releasing it? Okay, where do you run? So if you're a defender, do you have to go back and pick up a player? So it's to put these players thinking all the time. Then when you receive the ball, what do you do? And then maybe for 10 seconds in that warm-up, you have no ball. There's no pass coming to you. What are you doing? Are you just standing there? So I'll be looking for 3 things. Head up, what you do when you have it, what you do when you don't have it. And the 4 things are right there is, when you release it, where do you go? So it's head up, movement all the time. No straight lines. Everything is movement. So if you're only doing a little hand passing drill inside, now warm up thing, you'd see the little groups there that have warming up. It's the same principle. So if you're stuck in a corner this winter, the same principle will apply. Head up, pass your ball, move, but do not follow the ball. Think about it. That's going back out to the cone. A cornerback running out the field, hand passing a ball to a fella, and he's running to the exact same spot. He would be coming off the shoulder in the game, but he'd be running at angles, not straight lines. So you can bring that principle to all parts of your training.
Very good. And I suppose, like, just from the skill point then, James, like from football side of things, like if you did, like, I suppose, what like would kicking be the most emphasized skill that you would, I suppose, technical ball skill we're talking about, would kicking be something that you would put the most emphasis on? Or would other things like hand passing, catching, and stuff like that? Like, as I said, they all complement each other in a way. If I kick the ball to somebody is catching on the other side. But would you put a massive emphasis on the kicking?
You would, yes. And I suppose a lot of us are weak at it, and maybe in our county, we would have a bit of a phobia and that we're not good enough at our kicking. But you can start that at an adult level. So that should be a club plan coming up. So if you're involved with under 14s, you'd be hoping the 16s and minors and they'll be all doing it up along. But it isn't kicking the ball to a standing player. That player is moving, ball is moving. So the ideal pass would be the ball is hopping in front of him or straight into the chest. One hop. So again, the kicking one I does with players 1-on-1 is when they receive the ball, they have to turn on their opposite leg and hook kick the ball into space, not just stand there and kick it straight back. That never happens in a game. So when you get a ball in a match, you're going to be tackled. So you'll have to turn, twist, make up your mind where to go, when to kick, who to kick to. Use that in your warm-up and your pre-warm-up before you even start your 10 minutes before training starts.
Very good. And I suppose the most enjoyable type of kick of the whole lot is the kick for a score. Would you put a small bit of would there be that a focus? Like I suppose the forwards, they'd obviously get ample opportunity within the warm up to do a bit of shooting, I presume, would they?
Yes, and again in your pre-warm up, I would have that in again. Your inside forwards would be in trees, running a triangle, and the famous loop that there'd be maybe a player soling towards the goal, hand passes the ball or foot passes the ball to the full forward, and the corner forward comes in the loop and taps it over the bar. Very simple, but players have to get used to that, and where players make their runs, there's a lot of habits in players. They always make their run on their strong side, and if everyone run on their strong side, they all end up on the right side. Well, to be the left side if you're facing out the field, so we'd be always turning on our right. So if we all run to that side, we find it very hard to score. So you do this over and over and over again, and we've done that with the minors last year, and it worked at the end of the day. You could see some of the moves paying off, players holding their ground, running off the ball at different angles, which they wouldn't do maybe with their club, nothing wrong with the club, but they'd be getting maybe 70% of the ball, they'd be coming to the forwards with their club. With their county, they might be lucky to get 10 balls in the whole game.
Okay, very good. On the next slide there, we'll just move it on. So I suppose introduction to game-related action. So this, I suppose this interlinks into the next one is small, but next slide as well. But just on this again, we were just discussing it the other day when we were drawing up this, and we did short kickouts and long kickouts, the sidelines, long frees, short frees, 45s, throw-ins. They're all kind of the set plays that happen in matches, and I suppose it's not possible to do all of them in a one night, or to do all of them in the warm up and to do all of them in one training session. But is there little things that you can, I suppose, little trigger, like a 45 might only involve 3 players. It might involve one player taking it, one player making a dummy run, one player getting on possession. So you don't need a whole team for that, essentially. And the same for short frees in the forward line. You might be trying to get the ball to a player. But is it possible, or do you do it? Do you filter them into the warm-up in some capacity?
If possible, yes, but nearly impossible to do everyone every night. But I wouldn't do them in a robotic scenario that it's the coach led all the time, that the balls are with the coach and he's standing in the middle of the field. The coach won't be playing the match at all. He won't be kicking no ball in. So you can have a short kick out. You just have the goalie would have a couple of balls ready inside the goal, and you shout at the goalie. Maybe the ball at this stage was out in the middle of the field and someone lost it. You'd stop the game and you'd say, goalie, kick out. Then players ain't set up properly. So it's match scenario, then that they're all over the place and they're looking, who do I mark? That kind of stuff. Now, before that, maybe you'd get someone to solo up the middle and just kick the ball wide. Just hit the ball when wide. You shout to the goalie, has to be a short kick out. Maybe in 2 or 3 minutes later, the ball's gone out over the sideline, you'd roar at the goalie, long kick out. It just puts players thinking. Now, to do all this, you won't do this in January and February, so you'll be feeding this in bit by bit as the year goes on. And as well as that, you must be fiercely organised. So you're not stopping halfway through to put bibs on them. You're not stopping to say who's going cornerback. That should be organised beforehand. You know who you have at training, who's in the full back line, who's in the half back line. You would have explained to them before the warm up what's happening. You're emphasising on A, B, and C. This is what we'll be doing. So they know what's expected of them, that they're not waiting to be told. Does that happen again in January and February? No, but it should be happening in the middle of the summer, hopefully, when you're getting more organised. Short freeze, what do you do for them? If you want to work a goal, 45s, you can play against the gale of wind. What's the point in kicking it into the full forward? And it's a packed defence. But as you pointed out there, you're trying to get the ball to your corner Corbett or your scoring forward. But to do that, every player in the field should know what they should be doing. Even to the point of, if it breaks down, who's covering the centre in case they go up the middle afterwards and score a goal. Throw-ins. There's 2 throw-ins in every game. If you lose a game by a point and you lost your 2 throw-ins, maybe that could be the difference. Your sidelines. Just ask yourselves, when was the last time, or if ever, we practice taking, if you take sideline ball, practice 1 every night, in your pre-warm-up, in your warm-up, and then when you go into your full games, you'll get 4 or 5 done in a night, no problem.
I suppose 4 or 5 in a night multiplied by 3 times a week is 12. 10, 12 multiplied by multiple times throughout the year, it does get to a lot, and I suppose you can see the benefits of it over the course of a year then.
Yeah, and what we have to do is that maybe 2 weeks in before championship, we start practicing all these, and then you're trying to fatten the calf going to the masters. They're saying it's too late. You're overloading the player then with information.
Okay, very good. So next one there, I suppose we're just utilising the time in the warm-up to develop gameplay, as well as what types of play and variations of these. So like we've got down there now, we've got backs and forwards, and we've got small-sided games. And I suppose, look, just backs and forwards is like, I remember being up in Crow Park 15, 16 years ago, watching teams warming up, and it would have been very, very straight line, drill-based, a lot of shooting, uncontested and stuff like that. But if you go up there now, you'll see them actually set up in backs and forwards type exercises and stuff like that. But you might just talk on the different variations there. I know you touched on it a while ago, but the other types of variations you might have for backs and forwards, as regards like traditional game of backs and forwards, the coach stands in the middle of the field and kicks the ball into the corner forward for the first ball, then the centre forward, then the wing forward, and then the 7th ball around, it goes back into the corner forward again, you know. So how would you, what kind of differences might you use?
I would, the day, like if you're training twice a week and you have a match at the weekend, your warm-up would be a bit more coach friendly during the week. When you have your players more, you know, the day of a match, they're focused on the game coming up. So I think there's not much coaching going on there, but you're trying to get them focused. But just think about it again, for that 20 minutes, or maybe you might play 5-7 minutes of a game. If you're organised and it is active and high intensity, you can break down the game, start the ball inside in the cornerback, run into the cornerback position with the ball, overload that area with players, and the backs don't know if they're going to get it, or the forwards don't know if they're going to get it. Throw it to one player. If it's a forward, they're trying to work a score. If it's a back, they're trying to work the ball out the field, but they're not standing in their natural positions. So it's a game related. Again, as I said, we'll go start the ball from the sideline, but they're not robotic. Again, they're not standing in their natural positions. If a ball goes out over the sideline, usually there's 10, 12 players are very near that ball. So you need to mirror that in a game situation. Start one from a 45, start one again from the goalie. You will get a lot of plays in that 7 minutes. And again, as you just said, do that 3 times a week. That's 21 minutes of football. That's a lot of football. And you're coaching as well as that. No, you plus your other mentors as well. So there's someone knocking around the goalkeeper inside. There's someone outside around the midfielders. Now, if you're in a club scenario and maybe your coaches, you have that strength and depth in your coaching, they can do the basics. They can have the balls ready. They'll have the bibs ready for you. They have the teams picked. This will save a lot of time. They have the water inside in the middle of the field. They're the basic little things that if you want to save time, that you're not stopping and the water is in the back of the van always, that you have to bring it in, that's a minute gone. you're eating into your time then in the main training of the game. But think about it. If you have 20 minutes for your warm up, you would have about 5 or 6 minutes of kicking, moving, uh, different types of runs, lateral, sideways, sprint forward, jogging on the spot, basic stuff like that, doing your lunges, your hamstring stretches, moving and stretching at the same time, no static stretching. Then you might bring them in for maybe 2 to 3 minutes on your maybe a fast hand passing game right around you, but to be the same principle again, that when the player passes the ball, he changes direction. When he receives the ball, he changes direction. Head up. You'd see a lot of them there, the coach ain't coaching, he's just standing there, they're running around him. There's no learning in that. So they're thinking, they're communicating as well. If they're bumping into each other, that's like losing possession in the game. And then you go into your backs and forwards game as such. But as you said, there are different variations in that. If you have a lot of players that are training in a club, if you have under 21s and minors training with you, then you could have 2 small-sided games. Earlier in the year, that could be mostly hand passing if you're confined in your space, and that'll bring up the fitness as well. But at the end of the day, for the older lads and for everyone, I suppose, in general, the warm-up match day is to get them up to the speed of the game. No, they won't do that. Think about it. If they're standing behind the cone, if you have 30 players and you have 6 cones, and there's 5 of them behind the cone, then they're only running for 50 to that 20 minutes. So what's the 50 to 20 is about 4 minutes, like.
Yeah, very good. And I suppose like just with the backs and forwards, like you're talking about match day tempo there now, like would you be talking 7, 8, 9 phases of the ball going in and 7 or 8 possessions, or would that be too much or too little to get them up to that match pace, do you think?
I think you'll get away with that many, all right, yeah. But let's say if they were hand passing around a fair bit and there was no tackling going in, then you just have to stop it and start again, because then you're not at match pace.
Yeah.
But I would guarantee you today the championship they're at match pace, but they should be the same in the warm-up and training, because if they're not in match pace or at the pace they are at that time of the year, then your training won't be up to pace either afterwards, because they're not focused. So you might have to stop and say, lads, this is not good enough, let's go again. Okay, back. But if you think you have them moving, stop. That's it. More, sometimes it's not good enough. You could be there for 2 hours and you never get them to match pace. So you might have to stop for a second and say, lads, let's focus here and go. You won't have that time today at the championship, but there will be more focus.
Okay, so I suppose you're using the coaching eye to judge it as well, you know. As I said, like as I said, sometimes it might take 5 minutes, other times it could take 10 minutes to get up to pace, but judging that, I suppose, best case scenario. And just on other types of games then, James, that you could do in warm-up, because like as I said, anyone who goes to Park Grieve or Zippy Stadium or wherever, Crow Park, to watch teams warming up, like you'd see a lot of, I suppose, you know, a common one now would be the sort of 6-on-6 in a probably 20-metre square possession game. Like, is there any other types of games that you do, or you could see benefit? Like, or what's the benefit of that? Why do they do that? Like hand passing, strict hand passing only for 4 minutes of the game. What's the purpose of it, like?
Well, I suppose the idea behind that you're getting everything outside of kicking. You're getting contact, high intensity. You're getting your heart rate up. You're getting decision making. You're out of breath, so you're all been here in the second wind. So hopefully your second wind would come at the start of the game. Then that'd be the idea behind that, I would say. For a training purpose, you do a lot of that maybe at the start of the year because of the conditions of the pitches. But I would like to see them making more decisions in more open spaces. But there's nothing wrong with that, but not for the whole year. If they're doing that for the whole year, it's very robotic. There's not much learning in that. But you could bring decision making into that a bit more than by saying when you pass the ball, you have to run out around the cone, you have to make space, you have to run the ball through the goal instead of kicking it. 3 minutes max doing that, and the heart rate is up, like.
I suppose that brings us on to our next point, what you're just mentioning there about, I suppose, utilising the space. That I know at the start of the year, and especially this year, it was very wet. Probably a lot of teams weren't getting access to grass, weren't getting out in pitches, so they were confined to small areas, be it a training patch that they have in the club, or be it a warm-up or an AstroTurf. So I suppose utilising the full area, that on a match day you probably have 65 metres long by 90 metres wide. You've got that much space, and I suppose a lot of times we'd see, I suppose, I suppose junior teams and a lot of teams would go sort of structured inside the 21, inside the corner of the field, and that's all they do. But you're saying expand that and you utilise the full area.
Yes, 100%, especially if you're looking up to have the full pitch in your club for training and that's empty as you come in. Well, then the goalies are up one side before the training starts. Your inside forwards are down the other side. Your midfielders are on the middle of the field. That's where they're going to be playing. So that's where they need to be using their time. If they're all just standing around the goal, like we all did, and I've coached teams that have done it as well, and was my fault, was just waiting for the coach to lead everything. If you can build this up, put your full back line together and say, guys, I want 2-3 different types of moves, working the ball out from the full back line. I want you to do sideline balls every night, 1 or 2 of them. That puts it back on them. It will have, as I said before, it'll have to be coach-led early on, and you will see leadership coming to the fore then. But the day of a match, then you have to pitch. Again, use it, and if you have, in some places, if they're minding the pitches, of course, which they should, you warm me up on the main pitch. So, but again, everything you do in training, that player must be making a decision. So if you have a tight area and you're passing the ball from A to B, he must be making a decision. Where to run, where to turn to, who to pass to. And if you're doing that every night in training, you're doing a good job with him.
Very good. And I suppose the last one then would be maximising your time available. That, like, I suppose, look, it's something we did a webinar last week or 2 weeks ago on planning for the season. But like, I suppose that's on the large scale, but on the minute scale then of actually planning a warm up. Like, you know, you on a match day you'll have about 20 minutes max, or 25 minutes max, depending on, you know, as a championship. Like, you could have a half an hour warm up every week, and then you go to a championship match and you're playing 20 minutes after a game in Park Ring, and you don't have the same half an hour available. So being aware of that, being able to plan that in is very important. But with warm ups as well, it's kind of just taken for a lot of people that it's something that has to happen, and there's no real purpose behind it. So, like, with planning, I suppose putting in place a bit of plan, and like I know that you're saying about the space, and a lot of it is reactive to what happened in the last game. You know, if you tell players go work on this, they'll go back and they'll think, oh, we did this bad last day, we'll do it better this time. But from a coach's perspective, then, like as I said, 10 minutes before the warm up, be it that 10 minutes they're foam rolling, or the 10 minutes they're doing their own exercise, and then out on the pitch for the 20 minutes. How important is that it's actually planned, and there's actual, I suppose, there's an end goal. This is what we're getting out of the warm-up. We're not doing the warm-up just to get warmed up and get the body up to match tempo. We're doing it because we want to focus on A, B, and C. Is that something that's important?
100%, yeah. Like, we have a lot of stuff put up there now tonight, and if you try to put that into 20 minutes, it might take you 2 hours. Because, number one, if you're not organised, organised is, you could be organised yourself, but you haven't taught your coaches or your mentors or selectors with you what you're trying to get out of it. Now, number one, I would say talk to your fellow selectors and what we're planning to do for the next 6 weeks. So that they're not coming in the gate at 8 o'clock and they expect you to have everything done. And maybe that's your own fault as well. So be before the players every night. And players have an awful habit. They love the dressing room for the banter. So, and maybe the physio table. Get them off that fairly fast. Get them out on the pitch. Use your time. Now, to use that, the simple things. That you have your teams picked. You know who's training. You know who's doing the backs and forwards if that's your game. You know who's in every team. If you have no goalie tonight, then you'll have to improvise. You'll have to put an outfield player, or maybe change your game that there is no kickouts. We'll just have a selector standing in goal. Something like that. But if you have those things done, your water bottles full, the footballs are out, the very basic things. You might say that, oh yeah, you were at Cork Minors last year, that's easy. But they're just the basic things that should be right in every club. And if you have them right, you're saving a pile of time. In a lot of cases, including myself, we do maybe a part of the warm-up and then we give a 3 minutes fifth to the players. You do your talk at the start, run your warm-up and talk again maybe just as you go into your full training session then when they're taking a breather. But don't use up your time by talking. And us as coaches are very good at that. We like the sound of our own voice, myself included.
It was actually something that Paul Kinnerk mentioned to us in a recent workshop that over 50% of a training session is spent down. What I mean by that is that it's either coaches talking, or players are getting water, or players are transitioning from one area to the next. So if you're talking, you've got an hour and 15 minutes or an hour, 20 minutes of a session planned, and you're only getting 40 minutes of actual training, it's very important that you can get more out of that. So I suppose being conscious of that yourself, and I suppose a bit of somebody to monitor you and the time you spend like that. As I said, it could be a very good exercise for everybody to just, as I said, get out stopwatch every time you stop. That the players aren't active doing something, stop the clock and see what it adds up to over the course of the session. But it can be a good exercise for every coach. And I suppose the other thing what you're saying there, James, is utilize your backroom team. That it's not just you isolated on your own as the coach, that there's the selectors. Get them involved, give them roles. I suppose if there's someone more that would have played fullback for the club 20 years ago, there's a specific role for them. Would that be right?
100%, yeah. Now, they mightn't be confident enough in taking a training session, but that's your role. But if he was the best fullback in the club for the last 20 years, then guaranteed he has some few words of wisdom to give to that fullback or the young cornerback coming in. So in your warm-up and your pre-warm-up, that he's rambling around with the cornerbacks below and the full-back line, and he's telling him, look, I see you playing the last game there, you were standing at the wrong side of the full forward, or you're playing so-and-so next week. I marked him there for a few years. Look, this is the way he wants to play. Then you're passing on that information. But you can't stop 30 players from training just to give one fella the platform to talk to one player. That time should be used pre-warm-up and during warm-up, and maybe when you're warming down again. And even when training is going on, anytime there's a break, maybe those coaches, mentors are slipping in a bit of information, as well as coaching with the ball, that they're showing them how to defend, they're showing them how to do throw-ins, they're showing them how to the positions to run into the scoring. They're running down a dark alley all the time. Then the good forward that you have on your setup, he's the fella that they should be talking to. And not the coach. He hasn't time for that all the time.
Very good. I suppose that's it, James, from I suppose the presentation point of view. And questions, like we did a few questions in there. Like one would be, how much emphasis would you put on the non-dominant side? So obviously we'd love that they're equal, that they're going to spend 50% on their left, 50% on their right. But I suppose it's not realistic. It's not what actually happens. So how could you integrate that into the warm-up? I suppose putting an emphasis on the non-dominant side.
Well, on the club side of things, if every young fellow went on his non-dominant leg every night in the pre-warm-up for 5 minutes for 4 or 5 years, that would add up to a fair bit. But again, soling in a straight line, I'd have him turning. If he solos on his left, he'd turn back on his left, and he might be kicking with his right. You see a lot of work being done there now with 2 footballs. Make sure that every player has 1 football going onto the field, especially at a young age. And we had it last year as well with the minors, and I would be the same with Castlehaven this year, that every player would have 1 ball going onto the field. And they're using that time. And yes, the weak leg, of course. Yes, taking a shot and goal with the weak leg. And that would come in again on your threes, that you'll be pushing yourself, working with the threes, 3 players together, that you'll be working on your weak side and making runs on your weak side. So that maybe that one time then in a match, and it did happen in the All-Ireland final, thanks be to God, that the player went down the weak side, passed it with his weak hand, or non-dominant hand, as I should be saying. Yeah. and created a goal. No, that didn't happen overnight. That was great credit to their club coaches, school coaches, and the players themselves. But they have to be very disciplined to be doing that, because we all love kicking the ball over the bar. We all love doing the Ronaldo kick in training and all this kind of stuff. But if we're very disciplined and working on what we need to be working on, then utilise our time. And as coaches, we should be pulling them on that. That you see the player over in the corner and he's just talking or he's just hopping the ball, you're shouting at him, non-dominant leg, and they should know what they have to do then.
Okay, very good. Another one in is regarding a girls team that the coach, in fairness, is very proactive, wants them kicking the ball for the whole session. But he says that during the warm-up, a few of them are saying that they're getting sore hamstrings. What would you encourage just for that, to be proactive in that regard?
Yeah, I wouldn't be, I'd say, as an expert in that, but again, it would be a pre-warm-up again, I'd say, and your foam rolling and your stretching, and I would say talk to an S&C coach, but I would emphasize this, that no player goes in kicking the ball straight, especially long kicks, that they're warming up the muscles properly before they do anything. And again, that's getting out of old habits. We love kicking the ball over the bar from long distances. So just give them more time to warm up, and that would mean maybe pushing them to be there earlier before training.
Yeah, I suppose that is the incentive. It would be to, once you get a football or a sliotar or whatever it is, you want to have a shot, like. So I suppose it's just getting them into the habit that even if they're doing a simple thing of just running over and back to pitch one solo in, just to get the muscles somewhat warmed up, and short kicking first to be at 10, 15, 20 yards and then moving on to the next level. Next question in there, James, is regards the, sorry, 1 second, I've just lost it there now. Just to warm up, how much, it's just on the intensity of the warm up. How intense should you go before a match? So how long should you be at match tempo?
So realistically, what you'd have around 20 minutes is the given time. So again, if the day of a match, you should be, we call it practice, but don't change the warm up the week of the championship. We have and I've done this again, I'll be a part of this, that we need the fancy warm up for the championship because the crowd will be there. And we never done it before. So you're confusing the players the day of the game. That'd be something we haven't touched on there. So the warm up you're doing the day of the championship is the warm up you've been doing with the last 3 or 4 weeks. Well, at least a part of it beforehand in it. On the intensity, they can't be going intense for the 20 minutes. They'll be well flagged going to their game. Don't copy inter-county stuff on what they're doing in their runs. They are fitter than your maybe junior player. No disrespect to the junior player like myself, but don't do that type of stuff with them. But you're building them up, and maybe in the hand, you do about 7 minutes of the kicking and the moving and the stretching, drink of water, a couple of minutes of quick hand passing to get the heart rate up, into a shooting drill for a couple of minutes. And again, if you can get them, instead of running to cones, if you can get them in their trees and you're ending up with a score, and maybe one of the backs coming out putting in a tackle on the forward when he's shooting, you're into a game scenario there already. And you'll finish up with 5 to 7 minutes of a, as we call it, a backs and forwards game, but that would depend on the type of game you're playing. But they're at match speed then, quick stretch down, and they should be ready to go. They shouldn't be at the same pace all the way through. They can't be at high intensity pace all the way through, and they can't be at 50% pace all the way through.
So it's building it up from 0 to match tempo over the course of the 20 minutes. And I suppose just something, like I said, if you're going out, you're playing a team that are, let's say, play a sweeper. When you're doing that game, the backs and forwards, that would be something where you'd integrate a sweeper into that. Would that be something you'd do? Or if they were very defensive, where they played 12, 13 men behind the ball, is that something you try to replicate in that game then?
Well, especially at adult football, I suppose you know the teams you're playing and the type of football they play, and if there's a lot of defensive setups now at the moment, but one would be the basic sweeper. Then for the weeks beforehand, you should be training and you should be doing your backs and forwards with the sweeper in place. And where is he? More than likely he should be he'd be standing in front of your good forward. If they're going to play a sweeper, he ain't going to be standing out on the sideline. He'd be trying to cover your best forward. So that best forward that you have, and most clubs have one, that sweeper should be, it's 2 against 1, and that forward is getting used of that attention coming into the championship game. There's loads of other stuff. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate thinking about the opposition too much, but the basics you should have touched on.
Very good. And I suppose the last question we have here, just on the Gaelic 15 warm-up and how beneficial it is, I suppose just from my own point of view, it is like it's research proven. But I suppose where people would find difficulties with it would be that if you look at the website, it's straight line stuff. It's 15 minutes of slow. It gradually improves or increases pace and stuff. But if you're doing that for your warm-up, you don't get much of a chance to use the ball. So what my own thoughts would be, integrate it. Move it around to suit that you might be able to do your stretching or your dynamic movements whilst hand passing the ball. So after you hand pass the ball away to somebody, you can do your 2 or 3 lunges. After you pick up the ball and kick it to somebody, you might be able to do your squats and stuff like that. So you don't need to do it as structured straight line as that. You can integrate the ball into it. So your own thoughts on that, James? Any difference on it?
Again, the principle of the Gaelic 15 is spot on. The stretching, the types of running you need, all those can be incorporated into what I'm saying. You can still start, and I would do this a lot, in your corner, maybe to do 5 minutes of that. Older players will need more stretching, more warming up, but they'd have a lot of that done beforehand as well. If they were going out for a run beforehand, then you'd see the intercounty boys would have a lot done inside in the ball alleys or inside the warm-up areas in Crow Park. But for the local underage players, I would have them moving as much as possible, incorporating the Gaelic 15 stretches, the lunges, the hamstrings, the grinds, the basic 5 or 6 stretches you need. But if you're cut for space during the winter, you can do that Gaelic 15, but incorporate the ball as much as possible and just to put the players thinking. So it could be a 3-man move coming out from your small area, but that basically they have to think.
Very good. Right, James, we're going to leave it at that. James' email address is there and Twitter handle. I think I've that right, James at GDA Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to contact him or ask him a few questions, he'd be happy to help. Other than that, just want to say thanks very much for taking the time to join us today. And we'll what I'll do is I'll put this up on YouTube and we'll hopefully get a podcast out of it as well. So if anyone